Ukrainian authorities have released video from inside the control room at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station, which has now effectively been taken over by Russian forces. Watch. Stop shooting, you threaten the whole world. Now, currently, there's no change in the radiation levels in the region. None have been detected. Joining me now is Kate Brown. She's the author of Manual for Survival, a Chernobyl Guide to the Future, and a professor of science, technology, and society at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Professor, thanks so much for being with us. This is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant now, essentially, we are told, under Russian control. We're also told that the station managers are operating under gunpoint. How long do you think they can do that? What are the risks of something like that?
Well, it's not very good psychologically to be working at gunpoint. We have the same situation in the Chernobyl zone, too. That was taken over February 24th. And to my understanding, the same ship that was there when they took it over is still there on the job, keeping that station safe. So we have a really precarious situation. You know, if you watch the shots the other night when the Russians first attacked, you notice that the big sort of fireworks were really to light up the place. They did not send missiles right at the plant or artillery. What they did is they sent these big, flares, basically, lit up the courtyard and then started shooting. And that's what you see from the control room. They're just horrified that they're getting shot at. But it wasn't the big, heavy guns. And I think the Russians understand, as well as the Ukrainians, the risk of having one of those nuclear power plants or the basins filled with 40 years, at least 20 years of irradiated fuel, really dirty stuff. If those basins get drained of water, if they lose electricity going to them, the pumps going to them, then we could have the self-ignition of this fuel and a big radioactive fallout, cloud storms, noxious fumes. Everybody nearby would be in danger. So I think the Russians are trying to be careful. That's what I took away from that footage.
Yeah, look, I just put up an image of the overall Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, several acres big, and everyone was focusing on the reactors there. But I think you rightfully bring up the idea of these ponds, which have spent fuel rods. And yes, I know the Russians may have been being careful or trying to be relatively careful, but still, some kind of accidental fire that were to hit one of these ponds storing these spent fuel rods, what would happen?
Well, that's what keeps me up at night. If you think of the Chernobyl accident, that plant had been running for just 3 years when it exploded. That's the good news. These plants now in Zaporizhzhia are 20 to 30 years old. They had their, like many power plants today in the world, they've had their licenses extended. And we don't, many of these countries like the United States, we don't know what to do with our radioactive waste, so we put them in places that are zoned nuclear, which is right next to nuclear power plants. So those, that's stored, nuclear fuel waste, irradiated fuel rods, are searingly radioactive, depending on how old they are, when they were last taken out of the reactor. So that's many times more radioactivity than when the Chernobyl nuclear power plant blew. And that's why the Ukrainian foreign minister said the other night, if something were to happen at this plant, it'd be 10,000 times worse than Chernobyl.
Look, it's chilling to even think about it. Professor Kate Brown, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Yeah.